Hello everybody and welcome back to Slay the Spire, where we aren't playing Defect anymore. Oh my god, we completed Defect. We Ascension 20'd and we beat the heart, and that's great, but we're doing something a little bit different today. We are playing my mod, a mod that I made. This is... Wow, who is that? Dummy over there. This is the flagbearer mod, so this is a mod that I made of this character. Wow. I guess... slightly different flag design, so it's this is the flag bearer. I wanted to do an ascension run on this character, who is quite a bit stronger than Defect. I think on face, this character is quite powerful. I was thinking I wanted to have some, like, I guess like a reflection, maybe some like design notes or something. Like, anything that comes to mind while I'm playing it. Now that I'm realizing it might be kind of difficult to play the game and say all the things at the same time, but, like, honestly, probably gonna be able to do it. So, let's do it. We're at 74 HP, 99 gold. No changes to that. We have our starting relic, which is, when the flag is planted, gain 1 aura might. You already get 1 aura might for planting the flag, so this gives you 2. I made that change so that relic swapping was actually, like, doable, instead of it being quite bad. The character was, I think, basically unplayable if you didn't... If this used to be 2, and then basically everything was related to the mystical banner instead of, like, otherwise. Instead of otherwise. I think that's what it was. So, yeah, I think we're gonna start on Ascension 0. I'm really thinking that this one isn't going to be that hard, but Flare's the flag bearer. Yeah, that's me, guys. That's me. So I don't know if I'm going to be like rambling about stuff, or I don't. Basically, when I was playing last time, it was really easy to just be like, we're just going to focus on the game. We're just going to do the gameplay. But here, I wanted to talk about the character itself, and then maybe have different things to say about the cards as they come up, or anecdotes or stuff like that. So. If you find that interesting, if you find this enjoyable, I'm going to do the call out now instead of later. Please consider liking, subbing if you want to see more of this, and let's get into it. So, we have the starting deck, 4 strikes, 4 defense. We have Retrace, which is put a card from your discard pile into your hand and retain it. So, this card is supposed to help you set up things to do on a later turn, or if you need more card draw or more ammunition. It was supposed to be kind of a theme that the character plays defensively, makes a bunch of effects that you get next turn, so card draw or energy, stuff like that, and then you capitalize on that. So Retrace was supposed to be a way to mitigate against a debuff that we'll run into later, or to set up something to do after that. So the other card, Command, this is the Stance Switcher, which the stance was... slightly complicated to explain, or to describe how the scaling on it works. Basically, I wanted to have one turn where you were, like, weaker, so that you had to actually propagate, kind of like stance dancing a la Watcher. Character definitely takes a lot of inspiration from Watcher, but yeah, it's Plant or Recall, and that is, like, dependent on which stance you're currently in, and then Retrace is supposed to be able to buy back command depending on, like, when you draw. So that's the starting interplay of the character. And let's... Oh, I guess I have a Niao bonus. Right, because I have permanent Niao. Let's get a random rare card. Terra Reality is cool. So that card is adjacent to Exhume, except it gives it to you... you get to retain the card. It has Paradox, which is hard once per turn. Reason for that was just to stop infinite combos. It was actually kind of like a design intention to not have infinite combos on the character, because, like, I wanted it to be like you combo a lot, but you don't combo infinitely. Basically, that was the hope, because I liked stance dancing on Watcher, but I thought one of the biggest shames was that a lot of people play Watcher as, like, this combo machine, and then you just, like, don't play a whole lot of the cards. So Barrier, Rip Time, Light Beam. Right, I never actually explained what, like, Aura Might is and stuff like that. But Basically, when you plant, you get temporary flexterity. So you get like +2 strength, +2 dexterity. It's Aura Might on the stance, and then the other instances of getting it are inspiration, which actually ended up being kind of a headache later when I had to look at a couple of things. Like, there's one card that scales. It says it scales with strength and inspiration and Aura Might, just so like the card actually worked. But initially, I wanted to just have it as like auras and stuff, and then I realized like I had to consolidate it a little bit more. Basically, the main thing that the... Let me just take something. I'll just take a rip time. I don't know. It's Ascension 0. We probably aren't super hurting. I should not yap too much, but the intention was that my character, before I played like Slay the Spire, before I played Slay the Spire, before I like became a VTuber, was like sort of a buff mage, time mage. So I did things like cast haste on my allies, and I also had like a time walk ability that I got later in my levels. So sort of time mage, sort of buff, sort of, you know, flick the flag around and do cool stuff like that. So planting the banner is supposed to give you a buff. Many things revolve around getting the buff and then kind of stance dancing. So flag throw is great. Is the plant. Getting an extra plant is like pretty important, I would say. Because having, importantly, Command's upgrade has retain, which is like incredibly powerful. Being able to turn this into something you just hold into your hand all the time is like very, very strong. I think we'll take... Like, Shatter is good to do a little bit more damage. This is a Time Walk in a bottle. It's a cool one, Bottled Aeons. And it also has Time Sickness on it, so many cards, which are supposed to be like very powerful cards, have Time Sickness as the downside. I'm going to take Aura Shatter just to do more damage, and so I can move on. We'll upgrade it so that it costs 1. Yeah, but many cards, or the more powerful cards, have the downside that Time Sickness is you draw X less next turn, which I could have just used the draw X less, but I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool to call it Time Sickness. Basically, when you time walk, it is taxing on your body. It was supposed to be the idea, but yeah. One of the other reasons why you want to have... Well, I guess you didn't need it there. Character is very powerful. Was that we could flag throw and then pick it up immediately, because the turn where you are -1 on flexterity is very rough. So I suppose I didn't explain that. We're going to upgrade command here. The thing that I did not explain was that you get 2 Aura Might, which is flexterity, when the flag is planted, and then it goes down by 1, then by 2 the turn after that. So maybe I'll just let it tick here. So we're at 1. We'll hold command for next turn. And then now we're going to be at -1. So there's one turn where you're kind of more vulnerable if you didn't either hold the command in your hand via retrace, or you haven't found another way to circumvent being at negative aura. I'm always at negative aura, unfortunately. And you get an energy back when you recall the flag. The other thing that I wanted to include on the character was that every time it's planted, you deal 3 AoE damage to everybody. Also happens at the start of your turn. So just take a little bit of offense with the inspiration and a little bit more offense because of the AoE. So Recall Swirl is a really cool card. I like it a lot. It's kind of supposed to be your like big block card, your big like 2 energy block, but it doesn't give you 16 block, like something more akin to like Equilibrium, or I guess Glacier is 11, but it's also like sustain, so you get more block later. But the point is, it was supposed to be conditional, and the other thing is that you get your energy back when you recall, so you can always do something after you have recalled. You've like successfully blocked. So I'm realizing that this is there's a lot of damage, so Maybe we just do a little bit of blocking. It'd be really funny if I lost immediately. I think we can... We're going to use the card immediately, so... We also have hologram, but not hologram. We have hologram at home. Not actually doing a whole lot of damage. I'll pick up these two. We could do a bit of stance dancing, but not much effect. But yeah, you're supposed to, like... There's something I was really sad about, which I actually want to mention, is that you might notice that there's no real animations for, like, when the flag is planted or not planted. Couldn't really figure out how to do, like, animations, like, how to implement animations, so... and also, implementing the animations for the character, too, was a little bit complicated, so... What I wanted to do was have, like, the flag not there and have it in the middle of the arena, like a big bubble. But that was not possible. I actually had a couple people comment about, like, oh, I can't really tell when I'm planted or not planted, and, I feel that. It's really unfortunate. Seraphim form is flagbearer's defensive tool. I mean, among many other defensive tools, but in order to get time to do stuff like resolve all your scaling, Seraphim form was supposed to be like a big... I'm just going to play it. I don't mind taking some damage here. But it gives you 6 turns of feathers. So at the start of your turn, you gain flight. And then you take half damage from things. Now, mind you, it's a little bit of a confusing mechanic, and I think not super... it's not super conducive to understanding the amount of damage that is in play, which is something I realized after the fact, that, like, people will randomly die to, like, misinterpreting how much damage they're going to take. So, like, unfortunately, that's probably one of my favorite cards, but the actual way that you interpret damage is a little confusing. Like, not super useful to the player. The point was, or the reason why it's confusing is that if you take damage, you're supposed to lose flight. So it's kind of like block everything or don't block everything. Yeah, and we're going to have a lot of time to talk about these cards, just for the record. So, like, I'm realizing that I told myself before I started that I wanted to, like, I don't have to talk about every single card while I'm playing for the purposes of, 1, being able to actually finish the run, and 2, so that it's not just, like, 8 hours of me talking about cards and anecdotes and stuff like that. So, we will try to get the run going. What was I saying before this? We're gonna take a bunch of damage here. That kind of sucks. We're not exactly gonna have the highest quality of play, which I think is okay. Just give me a moment to remember what I was saying. It was about... It was definitely about something. Sorry, I actually do want to remember it. Oh, Seraphim form. Misinterpreting damage. So, it was supposed to act like flight, and the way that flight worked was, you know, similar to birds, like when they take X amount of damage, they stop flying. So it is possible to lose how much, like, change how much damage a player will be taking in the middle of combat, which is, like, really, really not helpful to the player. It is kind of unfortunate because, like, I want to have this cool, like, control win con where you get, like, a bunch of time. Well, I guess it's not really a win con. Seraphim form actually used to be infinite, I think. Like, I didn't have a timer on it, and then you would just always have flight, but it was, like, really, really, really incredibly strong. And I was like, I don't know if I like... I don't know if I like that. The unfortunate thing, I think, about this mod, and... Like, I wanted to make another flagbearer mod when Slay the Spire 2 comes out. Hopefully so that I could implement more things that I like. Like things like animations. It's unfortunate because I could probably do them. Or I could probably make, like, live 2D animations or something, but I just, like, couldn't figure out how to do it. I actually wonder if I was supposed to pick up or, like, play the Seraphim form. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have time. I literally did not have time. So we're just gonna hold on to this for next turn, because I think it doesn't attack next turn. But yeah, Inspire 2, hopefully, like, I can implement more stuff that I thought I wanted to implement for this one. And I was going to say that overall, I think I was very aggressive with balancing when, like, there was maybe some stuff that was just kind of, like, fine. I realized later that, like, this was kind of the mindset that I took after thinking about it for a while, which was that, like, you kind of just, like, when is it enough, right? Like, when is the player just allowed to win the game, basically? And I think if I looked more keenly at the other characters, because, like, I did some degree of analysis before I, you know, made these cards. So I looked at, like, average block numbers of, like, how much average block is there in each character's kit and stuff like that. You know, just making sure you're having the right numbers placed on cards. The thing is, in reality, a lot of the cards in Spire, and there was actually a dev conference, there was a dev presentation of one of the Spire devs, where, and I thought it was a very interesting lens, was that they were basically like, we wanted to make it that every card has a chance, like every card can do something in a scenario. So like you end up with cards like Thorns, right? So you're like, why would you pick Thorns on Silent? And then the thing is, it's like an answer to several like multi-hit encounters. Like you could reasonably pick Thorns versus Guardian if you wanted to. Like it attacks you with Whirlwind. It's doing some damage here. I'm actually taking a lot more damage than I thought I would. I was really thinking like, oh, last time I played Flagbearer, I was like, this character's broken. I think what we do is we actually pick up the command and then we wait. Oh, actually, you know why we didn't want to wait was because we take damage when we attack it. I think I'll hold command again. Yeah. I think something that's a little sad about retrace and command is that, like, because command has retain, this ends up being a fairly dominant strategy, is that you just, like, you just put the command in your hand and then, like, just wait. Because you get passive damage and then you can play it at a significantly better time. But yeah, I think I balanced a little too aggressively, and I think if I took a moment to like appreciate when the player just has enough stuff. Ooh, we have Ethereal Banner immediately. This was supposed to be the boss upgrade relic, by the way. Like, it was supposed to have this text on it and this ability. So it's like you get double plants and recalls. Unfortunately, I either couldn't figure out or like couldn't get the upgrade thing to work, so I was just like, whatever, it's fine. It does change a couple things about how the game is played, but it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. I don't think we're super aggressively stance-stancing. I don't think our deck is really doing anything yet, but we'll just try to get this run done. So Aegis Bash was supposed to be an interesting, like, how do you get damage? I guess picking Aegis Bash when I had Aura Shatter was already kind of like, I don't know. It's already a bit of an I don't know. Let's chip away at this. Oh, and something that hasn't happened yet is that if you simply wait for the fatigue to tick down, so like if you wait through 3 turns, like, then the flag is automatically recalled. It doesn't send you to the Shadow Realm with like minus 3 flexterity, because that would kill people. So instead, if you do happen to wait it out and you recall it at the start of your next turn. And what that lets you do, it's a little bit of a trick, I suppose. I don't know. It's a little fuzzy when it's good or not good. Formless Rapier is probably too powerful. It's unclear whether it's going to be good unless you have like a reason to do it. But that means you start the next turn with an additional energy. So you have a baked-in way to kind of start your turn with 4 energy, but like you do need to play through a turn where you're at minus whatever. It's unclear whether or not that's actually like good, though. Aegis Bash used to be another card. I think it was still called Aegis Bash. And the purpose of that card was originally to be a stun card, until I realized that stun cards were very powerful. So this character has a stun and a time walk, like a vault card. I thought it was kind of interesting that this was, it's actually ended up being a pretty big problem, I would say, because I wanted there to be kind of this balance between having cards that happen later and then being able to either time walk, produce way too much block, or have other kind of like stall things that help you. Oh man, yeah, duplicating command is just like probably very, very strong. Having a way to bridge the gap, like between one turn to another turn, was supposed to be like a major theme of the character. So whether you did that through time walking or stunning or something like that. So originally there was 2 stuns. Aegis Bash was a stun, but it was an attack stun because the one is like just a stun. There's one card that is just a stun, but I wanted it to. We draw a card here. Yeah, I wanted it to have enough stuns that you can basically, like, chain the stuns together and be, like, setting up turns and comboing stuff, but it was a little too powerful, in my opinion. You would be able to get, like, 7 billion stuns, and that was a little too powerful, I think. So there is still one stun, which is effectively a draftable ethereal. I think I remember when I first showed the mod to the Discord, that was like a point of contention for some people. And I'm actually really happy about it because there were some people in the Discord who kind of like went to bat for it, and they mentioned this, and I actually, like, I considered it when I kept balancing cards, because I balanced this mod for several weeks after it was released, and then also not just several weeks after it was released, I had like a 2.0 patch because some of the cards I think weren't really doing it. There was a bunch of stuff that I wanted to reduce, so and then like really locking into the theme where I wanted the character to be a little bit more defensive focused. Like, it can be combo-y, but like I wanted to make the defensive tools more apparent because I felt like it wasn't super apparent how you were supposed to block and actually be able to win on Ascension 20, for example. Well, I mean, you can't block if you don't have any. That's definitely an issue. We can pick up a defend for 0 or this synchronize. I think that works. Block with a synchronize. So yeah, the thing that they said was draft contest. And I thought this was very interesting because this is supposedly a thing that comes up with a lot of mods, and I think that it is a good perspective to think about in general, which is like, people very frequently want to, like, you need a particular card effect. Like, let's say you need a defend that draws, and unfortunately your character's identity does not necessarily allow you to make like a draw defend like with anything particularly unique. So some people might get self-conscious thinking like, oh, well, I don't want to just make like defend, or like I don't just want to make like a sword, not a sword boomerang, sorry, I don't want to make a shrug, right, which is just like defend and draw. But the thing is, or the reality is that characters, that's another thing that I should mention, is that like characters frequently have a lot of the same tools that are just slightly changed for the character. But the reality is that if you are designing a character and you simply need the character to have a shrug, like in its simplest form, there isn't really much you can do about it, then like you just have to give the character a shrug. Like there's not much to say about that. However, I do think that when you get to uncommons and rares, you might say that that's sort of where the identity of the character is. So like you would want to avoid duplicates, right? Like you want to, even if they have the same types of cards available, you want to elaborate on the identity of your character such that, you know, it's themed or synergistic to what the character is doing. A series that like I would want to bring back for Spire 2, which maybe I'm a little too optimistic in how well I think it would fare, but Oh, it's just slightly not enough. That sucks. Yeah, maybe a little optimistic about it is Design the Spire. And because something that I appreciated a lot about doing Design the Spire as a series, where I play mods and I just kind of like review them from the design angle and see what, like trying to understand what the mod creator was doing and then like reference some of my design knowledge. And we're probably going to escape here. Sorry if I have some pauses. I actually like just ate, so I'm anyways, we're gonna probably do Design the Spire again. But yeah, it's like having enough mods to play, I think that's sort of the problem that I ran into, was I didn't want to like go too far into the backlog, and there were also certain mods that I felt like were people's like darlings, if that makes sense, and I didn't really want to intrude. Didn't really want to comment on them because they felt like they were too well known and maybe like a little like I could just say like I didn't really want to review Downfall because I felt like I wouldn't have a whole lot of productive things to say. But as far as uncommon cards go, there's certainly space to elaborate a lot. Uncommon cards are a greater majority of the character. So what I noticed, I guess I could probably share this. What I noticed about like the design of the cards, design of the characters, design of the cards, whatever, is that commons tend to be very simple effects that the character just needs in order to function. Right? So there's typically a burst block card at common with some kind of effect that has to do with the character. So Temporal Step is block for 16, which is a huge amount of block. But you draw one less card next turn. So Time Sickness is supposed to be inherently mitigated by Retrace in the starting deck, or any other cards that say like draw next turn, stuff like that. Or maybe even if you Time Walk into your next turn, you're not as torn up about whether or not you are going to draw an extra card. Reflect, funnily enough, is supposed to be a card that mitigated Time Sickness, so you were supposed to play it in combination with Time Sickness, where you could play the Reflect, play a card that has a large amount of time sickness, and then like not need to worry about it. Unfortunately, in my opinion, because again, it's like, well, here's the intention of the card, and then it ends up being kind of like a major synergy that defines some of the stronger things that the character can do, is that it's actually paired with Haste. So Haste is a Flexterity effect that I made for this character, and it is not super good. It does give you Time Sickness, which is really bad. Like, the draw opportunity cost of having, like, drawing a flex is already kind of awkward. It's something that maybe newer players don't acknowledge as much, but there is a problem with drawing a zero-cost card that doesn't inherently advance your game plan. Like, you could draw Flex and then a bunch of blocks, or you could draw Flex on a turn where you need blocks, and then it's, like, really bad. Which is why you try to mitigate against that by having cards with draw cards, so, like, that's why Shrugs are really good, so that you can draw a Shrug and a Flex, and be like, I need to block, where you could play the Shrug and then draw a Flex, and then be doing what you wanted to be doing that turn. So, we're actually dead here, and I wasn't paying attention, because I was too busy rambling. So, you play the top 3 cards of our deck. I am wondering if there is a way to do this. There probably is. So I'm just gonna Air Reality, pick up Reflect, and probably Command. I would imagine it's Command. We're gonna play the top 3 cards of our deck. So one of these is Retrace. I'll pick up Command. If we had Aura Excel, this would be a lot better, but I think we're just gonna do this. We're going to plant again, and then draw a card. That's enough to block. That's 49.50. It's not enough. This blocks it, though. Yeah, it's pretty interesting how we just still Still possibility of dying if we're not completely paying attention. I am having fun rambling about the character, though, which is hopefully entertaining to people. I think we're going to recall Swirl just to make sure we block. Probably one of my favorite cards. I made an Exceed character as well of this character, of Flaris. And it has Banner Swirl as one of the moves. It's actually an instant... Not an instant. Instant overhead would assume that it's, like, very fast, but it's an overhead. Which I thought was fun. I'm gonna try and not die here. Luckily, we have extra block. I haven't been playing the Synchronize, so... I really should have been playing the Synchronize, but I guess... I don't know why I chose not to. I'm not super paying attention. And I Area of Lights... So something I wanted to bring up pretty well before was that we had... there are a lot of cards that have multi-hit, or like multi-block, and the purpose of that was to scale with the Flexterity. That was supposed to be part of the identity of the character. Grasp Fate is kind of cool. So Grasp Fate is like literally draw to full, except you get Time Sickness too. So this is one of the power cards that's supposed to be mitigated by either having a Reflect. Oh, I never explained why Reflect was super crazy busted. It was because you could block the inspiration down that you get from Haste. That was the problem. It's not really a problem. Again, this goes back to, like, when is the player allowed to win? And I think that if you have assembled this common and uncommon, and you found a way to consistently do it, then, like, maybe that's fine. I actually wanted to, like, kind of do an analysis, sort of, like, my own analysis, for the purposes of finding out where that spot is for base game characters. Like, what counts as winning for base game characters? And I think assembling a common and an uncommon is doable. It is doable for people pretty easily, but that's kind of... It's similar to saying something like, oh, well, if they assemble Rushdown and any Wrath Enabler, then you can infinite combo on Watcher. So that's where I go, like, listen, if you found Haste, if you took the risk, you did the thing, like, fine, it's probably good enough. You're allowed to do it. And it also doesn't single-handedly get there. That's the other thing, too. Is that, like, it's really good. It's an incredibly powerful synergy that's available to you, but it doesn't actually win you the game instantly. You just still have to play the game, so that's fine. I did want to avoid stuff that was a little too... Man. So, this enemy is an absolute menace to Flagbearer because you have to attack a lot, and many of your attacks are multi-hits. So, I very frequently end up just sitting there waiting for it to die to pulse damage. So, Time Fissure. Suspend is the keyword for something that happens next turn. So, and something I actually found ended up being like a huge problem for this character in particular. And I suppose the design of it is that, like, things that happen next turn are actually kind of bad. Unless the effect is very strong, it is hard to make, like, a suspend deck, for example. So if I'm saying that suspend is a keyword that you should be able to do on this character to have fun, like, that's kind of the stipulation. And the unfortunate thing about that is that, realistically, you can't play a bunch of cards that happen now and also happen later unless they're incredibly powerful or, you know, it's complicated. Because, like, well, getting an extra energy and drawing an extra card next turn is great, but, like, what am I doing? Like, playing a 6, like, attack for 6? I actually think it's not Dimension Fissure. Time Fissure is probably one of the best uncommons in my opinion, because it's like gain energy and draw, so like you get to... It's kind of like upgraded Retrace, which I know that there is a player who like really doesn't like Retrace, which is funny. I am adding you right now, by the way, by saying you don't like Retrace. I'm pointing at you. But I really like Retrace. These cards that like... So they give you something to do next turn, and they also give you the energy to do it. So I ended up making the suspend cards a lot more powerful when I rebalanced the character because, like, honestly, it is tough. It is hard to make it to the next turn in Slay the Spire. Like, one of the biggest things that you need to be doing in Slay the Spire is finding out how the heck you are going to get to the next turn. So that ends up being a huge problem at later Ascensions, but it's also just one of the things. Man, sequencing is hard. It's just like one of the main things about the game. So like there will be a point in time where the automaton is attacking you for hyper beam damage, and depending on what difficulty you're on, that is going to happen very fast and potentially soon. So you need answers now, and also without like an incredible amount of either foresight or like an incredible player skill, which is maybe it's just like something I don't have, and that's why I'm bad at my own character, which is really funny. But being able to know what the enemy is doing next turn means you could like there's a card I really like. We even saw it earlier this run, where you get block this turn and next turn, and that card is based off of, you know, obviously the silent card that does the same thing, dodge and roll. But it's at uncommon, and the reason it's at uncommon is because you have access to a lot of flexterity scaling, as opposed to Silent, who has basically... Like, Silent has footwork, but they don't have flexterity, right? Parallel Universe is kind of a funny card. Definitely want to talk about that card at some point in time. But... yeah, I made it uncommon because I felt like, if it's a lot easier for this character to safely get dexterity, then, like, I don't think I want to have something that's too easy to access that gives you block next turn. Now, the problem that ended up happening with that card, because, like, it's not actually that strong, is that you can make a lot of block for next turn, and then, like, it doesn't go anywhere. The thing will simply not be attacking, and then you end up getting cooked. So, like, cook the turnable after that. So, what's funny about that, and in a very, very, very early stage of making this character, which it never got published, like, it didn't even make it to... I was gonna say it didn't make it to live, but didn't make it to anybody's eyeballs, was that I wanted to have some way of rewinding to the previous turn in some way, like giving the boss its HP back, but then like going back a turn, something like that. It was a little too difficult to figure out how to like rewind intent. Like there was no... I couldn't store the intent of the... Like these are all things that were probably possible, but I simply like could not figure out due to my skill. Storing what the intent of the boss was the turn prior so that you could know what was going to happen. So the purpose was to... Like, if you knew what the boss was going to do next turn, and you knew what the boss did the previous turn, then you could go like, okay, I'm going to set up block for next turn, and then rewind it to the turn previous, either to resolve some scaling, or, you know, have the block set up for next turn or whatever. It was just too complicated, so I didn't do it. But yeah, I felt like the interplay was cooler with stuff like retain cards and drawing less cards the turn after, and I felt like that was one of the stronger themes that I actually felt confident about and thought was cool. Also because, like, for example, burst drawing to find your scaling is, like, good. That's a good thing. Or, like, burst blocking or burst drawing up by a lot in one turn meant you could get your scaling online. And that's, like, literally just the thing that I just said, and I said it twice, but... yeah, this is a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Just, like, having design ramble. I was also going to, like, maybe record what cards that I have talked about or haven't talked about, but, like, I'll probably end up reiterating myself. Also, like, there's no momentum swipe! I notoriously always miss my momentum swipes, which is very funny. Preparation is also a cool card because it's, like, command 2. Electric Boogaloo. I actually really like this card. The purpose is that, and it has a similar design philosophy to Formless Rapier, where depending on, like, I wanted to think about what does the player want if you're planting, and what does the player want if you're recalling. So, certainly when you're planting, you are probably going to be attacking something, because that is when you have the most amount of strength. You could also be defending, but it's like, certainly planting is, you have the most amount of strength, you want to be hitting the thing now, so we gave it vulnerability. Whereas I thought, okay, well, if you want to produce energy to block or resolve scaling, then you need time. So when you recall, make energy to play a Seraphim form or something like that, then you want to weaken the enemy. So I thought Preparation was a really cool card when I actually figured out what I wanted to do with it. I think it was added later. It was not an initial card on the character. I really like Preparation. Thought that was a cool card. Formless Rapier is either the way I designed this card, which is again unfortunate because like this card is basically an auto pick. There's it's just like simply too powerful. Which maybe it's fine that that's the case. Like you always pick Glacier on defects, for example, but the idea is that if you don't have the flag planted, you want to draw the flag, like a way to plant the flag. But if you are planted, that probably implies that you are either attacking or doing a lot of stuff. So if we can already play everything in our hand, we want to produce more energy in order to like play all these attacks and stuff. And here we can Seraphim form plus. Yeah, I don't know. I might have a run where like I don't really talk a whole lot about the cards. I mean, I imagine by the time I get to like, I don't know, Ascension 4 or something, I'll have said a lot of the stuff that I was going to say. But I really thought that there was a lot of cool anecdotes about like developing this mod. In truth, it is like one of the things that I've worked the most on. Like, I talk about Tactician School a lot, but realistically, like those projects don't involve like a release, and then they don't involve the maintenance of something and like the bug fixing, and like there was a lot of bug fixing, right? There's actually a fun card which is it's an interesting card. I think I made an interesting card draw uncommon power because every character has some way of generating cards via or at uncommon level, and there was like a very interesting bug with it. Unfortunately, I don't have access to it, so maybe if we... It's actually... I think the bug came up because of the way I coded the action. So, like, it is on another card, or, like, the same bug was on a different card, and the reason it's on the different card is because you code things as action. So it's like, the action to put a card back in your hand, for example, was kind of bugged. And then it would, like, crash the game, which was very funny. Which I personally love those kinds of breaks, by the way. Like, the most frustrating bug is always, like it just doesn't work, and you're not really sure why it doesn't work. But man, when bugs are like, you made an infinite loop, you absolute buffoon. It's like, yeah, you're right. And those are always funny. It's probably a little bit late in the video to be saying this, but like I did play this mod a lot, like off stream. I was just like, I'm not saying this to like stroke my own ego or something, but like I was really happy that I made something that I just enjoyed playing. We just haven't gone to any shops, I'm realizing. But yeah, because I enjoyed playing it so much, I played it a lot off stream, and then I eventually just stopped playing it because I was hoping that I could do more. But I figured a better time to do that, because I think Spire 2 was announced. I didn't keep playing it. I think also because, like, you know, once you've played it enough times, it's kind of like, well, you know, it's there. Maybe part of me was also a little bit unhappy that one of the main things that the character did, or like one of the big ways to win at Higher Ascension was doing like that haste tech that I was talking about. So I felt like I was pretty aggressively searching for that and being like, well, you know, you need some way to win the game, right? So what are some cards that I can talk about? Really like Retrace. Retrace is fun. So I wanted to have a way to access the graveyard, but what I noticed was that, like, Retrace went through a few iterations. So originally it was costed 0, or costed 1 and then upgraded to 0, because I was like, well, I want to have a powerful manipulation tool that the player can use to access the graveyard, because, like, the graveyard is kind of like the past. Those are the things that you've done during the encounter. So I thought the theming was like, you reach into the past, like you retrace into the past and then grab something that you need because you're time mage. That's the idea. The problem with retrace upgrading to 0 was that it just like made infinite combos. So it was too strong. There were things, and then I didn't want to like make it paradox. I guess that's like a reasonable solution as well. You could just make retrace paradox and then it doesn't get hard once per turns. I think the reason I didn't do that, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, was that I didn't want to have too many keywords on retrace. Like, it introduces suspend, because you think about the base deck as like a tutorial for the player. Like, they get to learn what they can expect from everything else. I think retrace is actually one of the only cards that does not have suspend, but then upgrades into having suspend. There might be another card, but it might have been removed. So it's a little weird that it has suspend and then stops having suspend. I think I need to have a more robust plan for killing this guy. So the general game plan is to have a way to stance a lot, or to have card advantage, resolve all your stuff, and stance a lot. So maybe I should be figuring that out, like, now instead of later. Seraphim Form should give us a lot of time, though. Oh, a card that I wanted to talk about, which was Reflect. So I thought this card was kind of interesting because I gave it Retain on upgrade, I think. That was the main thing. And the reason why I wanted to give it Retain on upgrade was that you could combo it with stuff. Like, it was a pretty major feature to go, you can or cannot combo with this card. So it's like, not being able to have it at the right time is certainly an issue. So I wanted to upgrade it to Retain. I think I may have had too many cards that are good because they get upgraded. That makes sense. Where, like, Reflect should maybe just have Retain on it anyways. Like, it's just Artifact Retain. I'm not sure. It felt kind of strong. Like, pretty strong to be able to do that. Well, we just have a bunch of blocks. They're just all blocks. In the same way that Retaining Command is just, like, very, very strong. But if you needed to have access to it when you were going to play a Time Walk, for example, or anything else that gives time sickness, then I wanted players to just have access to it. Unfortunately, that also means that it is very easy to assemble Haste plus Reflect at the same time. I think I talked about stuns. I talked about Aegis Bash. I think I never finished that. No, I did talk about draft context. So I apologize that it's probably a little bit more scattered, my ramblings, but there's a surprisingly large amount to talk about, which I'm gonna say and then immediately have nothing to talk about, which I think is very funny. Just gonna command this back. I missed the momentum swipe! Momentum swipe count missed one. Draft context and is like pretty important. Oh, retrace. I was talking about retrace. No, 0 costed, made infinite combos. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what another version of it was. I think it exiled itself. So it's like it became 0, but then it because it got banished. God, what is the exile effect in Slay the Spire? Exhaust. It got exhausted. So when you played it, it got exhausted. And the purpose of that was supposed to be that, like, you couldn't infinite combo with it. But then, like, it felt weird that, to me, it felt weird that this card that's somewhat signature to grabbing something that you need later is, like, just this incredibly powerful card manipulation tool is just like not available to you later. There's Haste Plus. So I thought that was weird. And then instead, the way to make it cost 0 energy effectively was to... why am I not... Should I haste? I don't know if I should. Probably should have done it beforehand, but... Yeah, I think haste used to have Time Sickness 2 on it. That was really funny. So yeah, making it cost 0 by giving it Suspend I thought was... like, felt really good when I made that. I was like, that makes a lot of sense. It means that you don't get the energy now, but you do get refunded for, again, being able to play something on a later turn if you need something on a later turn. So I think if I were to remake cards now, what I would want to do is that similar to Defect, like, the effects you get from stuff later should probably be weaker than the stuff you get up front. So, I mean, it's like, if you think about how much block a Frost Orb gives you, like, it's a lot, and it becomes really good when you resolve your scaling, but it's not like... Glacier is still upfront block 7 first, and then it becomes something later. Like, it's not actually block, like, block 2 now, gain 3 Frost Orbs. Floss Orbs. Gain the Floss Orbs. Banner Ignition is going to be a no. Recall Crescent actually maybe helps us do a little bit more damage. I'm concerned that we're not doing a whole lot of damage. Yeah, you can tell that the quality of play... Maybe you can. Maybe you can't. This is the first time seeing the mod, so... not incredibly high. I guess we don't have a whole lot of energy because we didn't pick an energy relic, and then now we're just kind of... Oh, you know what? We probably don't have as many... I think it's like this, right? We probably don't have as many... relics because we simply don't have as many elites to fight, which I think is kind of funny. We're gonna draw a card here. Shatter is good. I think we'll keep going. Let's draw here. So command 2 hits. There's a momentum spike takes 0 here. What was I saying right before this? Oh, we can do it again. Wow, that's really strong. I definitely knew that. I've definitely done that before and definitely super knew that. But yeah, having more upfront, because again, the thing that I was talking about was you end up in problems when you cannot solve the turn now. You actually really, really need to be able to solve things immediately, not the turn later. Playing Wraith form on the turn where you are dying does not save you, so I want to have a similar downside for Seraphim form, where you do need to set it up in advance. It also felt like a lot of the form cards had that on it, like Deva form. Oh, sorry, is it the reverse? It's the reverse. Wraith form gives you the intangible immediately. Sorry, I literally said these in the reverse order. So Wraith form gives you invulnerability immediately, but every other form card, like, you get the scaling later. Like, Echo form is later. Deva form is later. Demon form is later. So I wanted to keep that. I can't put... It's so funny because, like, Wraith form is actually part of the inspiration for the card, right? But it's like Wraith form, but longer, but you need to, like, survive a turn. I think that was supposed to be kind of the idea. Also, I think, like, survive to next turn somehow is pretty standard for the characters, so that wasn't too much of an ask. That wasn't too much of an ask. But as you can see, with, like, vulnerable and a couple of haste synergies resolved, it's you really do quite a bit of damage. So let's see if we can beat the heart here. Notoriously, I die to this elite all the time, by virtue of the character needing some setup. Like, there are definitely some builds where it's like, wow, I need to make it to next turn, and then you just like really can't. Like you just raw die. So I think maybe if I want to spin my wheels some more, we're gonna upgrade this rip time. There are definitely other things that I could have done, but we're gonna do that one. Recall Focus is a Wombo-y combo-y card. I guess we have a lot of... Just buy everything. Buy literally everything. What do we got? We haven't picked a sidearm yet. Probably don't need those. Ooh, upgraded Recall Focus. Sanctuary is also kind of nice. Do this. Yeah, also, cards which slow the game down are not necessarily in favor of the player. This is another thing that I learned later on. Was that because bosses have a clock on them, kind of, like they have a way to gain a lot of power randomly, like not randomly, but later on in the fight, like they will have a way to gain power, and because that is the stipulation, something you need a lot of defend in order to compensate for that. It would be very hard to completely dirtle out a boss. Which is why if you have like 12 orb slots or however many is the max, plus Frost Orb, plus scaling, you can dirtle out a bunch of bosses, but it's, you need quite a bit. There was a note that I wanted to make about Vulnerable, and it's kind of why I'm not super happy with the Aura cards, is both Aura Slow and Aura Shatter, that's what it's called, is that it really devalues all the other vulnerable cards. So it's like, if I have this, like you have it pretty permanent. Like, it's a lot. So, it's 51 over there. Can I even block this? I don't know what the calculation was there. It said 51, but I have Feather. This is probably... We're just going to leave these on top. What we were really looking for this deck was an Aura Excel. Which is the Rushdown adjacent card for this character. Yeah, hopefully we can... Deck's a little loopy, but doesn't really accomplish a whole lot. See if we can get some plants. Okay, well, Grasp Bait is great there. We'll throw... Oh yeah, I mentioned that there was several stun cards. There used to be several stun cards. And what might actually happen in some of the later runs is that simply it is not possible to actually win. And what ends up happening is that you just dirtle a whole bunch and take a bunch of extra turns, but then you just die anyways. That was always my favorite. Because something I liked about it, I guess, or something I liked about this character, was that you do end up with that problem. And you go like, well, if I have a billion stuns, similar to why, like, having a bunch of defend doesn't actually, like, win you the game. For a similar reason, it's like, yeah, you can take a bunch of extra turns, but like it doesn't win you the game. Like you will lose if you try to do that. Divination was supposed to be a reference to MTG. There's a couple of those. Divination is one of them. Where it used to be like, I think it was actually 3 energy or like 2 energy draw 3. When it's supposed to be like 3 energy draw 2, but the card was pretty bad, so I changed it into draw 1, then suspend draw 2. It's a cool card. I don't know if it's ever, like, necessarily super good. Okay, so I think we do actually need to resolve everything. Like, we do need our Reflect to work with our Haste. A bunch of auras. I think we can take Aura Slow. We don't have that one, so... Let's go ahead and play the Slow. Oh, we drew a few cards. There's Seraphim form. Man, I really wish I had a Runic Pyramid. Runic Pyramid would be so gas right now. And the reason we're doing this is so that we can Grasp Fate. Because if we draw the haste, which we did, we're going to go reflect, haste, and then we're going to tear reality and hold both of those again for next turn. And we hope we draw enough next turn because we have 3 time sickness. This is going to be fine. Oh yeah, there's also the issue of drawing your entire deck. This has happened before. Drawing your entire deck versus the heart is like not a great idea. So we do need a block card and probably a draw. So we go rewrite, we'll reflect haste, and then we'll rewrite. Then those 2, draw, avoid. And we're not dead, but it's definitely kind of sketchy. We do have +8 flexterity though, so this is partially why I didn't like this card so much anymore, but not much to be done about it now. Synchronize Area of Lights. It's gonna be really funny when we just like lose. I suppose we have like Thorns. Thorns is really good. The Permanent Weak is really good. We have Seraphim Form Ticking, which is really good, so I think we just kind of need to find a way to do enough stuff in one turn such that we can win. Straw. Flag throw. Have we not Aura Shattered it yet? I guess not. It's literally right here. Let's go Aura Shatter. Draw Dose. Play this again. Defend. Draw Dose. Defend, defend. No plant cards, huh? Just a big old block. I think we're gonna play the Recall Focus and then hold it for next turn. We'll leave the Recall Focus on top so we can do something like this. Just kidding, we didn't have a plant. Whoops. $24 damage. Okay, we'll take less than that. Just gonna see if we can get there. I guess something that I didn't consider for this particular character, something I did not consider is that sometimes the runs are just so dirtily because you're like just trying to do enough damage. Trying to find a way to do damage. But, hopefully we're coming up on time soon. There's an Area of Lights. Think we can do it again? No, we didn't have enough energy. I'm a goofball. Well, that should be it. Here's 18 damage. 27. Alrighty, and that's our first run done. If you're still here, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your support as always. Please consider liking, comment, subscribing, typing. Would love if you left a comment to let me know if this is interesting to you, because, you know, I'd love to just ramble about the character. It is obviously still fun to me. I was really happy that I could make something that I enjoyed playing. And we'll probably play a little bit more if this is something you're interested in. I was also thinking maybe I could play another base game character, but flagbearer is pretty strong, so I imagine we won't spend too much time playing the character if I could get some better runs going. But yeah, there's plenty of cards. There's plenty of cards to talk about, and maybe I'll see you in the next one. So, see you later. Bye.